guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I have Becca's Bookopoly round 40. So if you guys are new here and you don't know what Becca's Bookopoly is, this is the TBR game that I play bi-monthly. It's based on Monopoly and I roll 2 6-sided dice, move around the board, every square has a prompt on, and I have to select a book to fulfill the prompt for every square that I land on during the round. If you are new here and you want to check out the rules and a full tour of the board, I will link January's round up here for you guys, and in my description box I will also put the full Bookopoly playlist, which includes all 40 rounds. But for those of you who are regulars here, let's have a look how I did in April and May. Spoiler alert, it was really not good. So for the spring round, I had 7 books on my TBR. We had The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen for Scroll Through Goodreads. I had You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry for most recent purchase. The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien for 30 Before 30. I had Malice by John Gwynne for Viewer Recommends, Aurora's End by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, and the first Skyward novella, which is Sunreach, both for sci-fi. And then I did have one ebook for romance, which was The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I read 2 of these. In April, I wasn't too worried. I was participating in 2 readathons, and these books, like, there's only a couple of them that are large, so I wasn't worried about getting to them in May. But if you guys have been following any of my content, you will know that my mental health has just not been here since the end of April, and that has resulted in me reading next to nothing. I am still thinking about doing punishments in the future if I don't fulfill my Bookopoly TBR. However, what I'm not going to be doing for this round is punishing myself for having such bad mental health that I've struggled to get out of bed most days, because that is just not a helpful thing for absolutely anybody. So we're going to pretend that this never happened, but I will say the 2 that I've read was The Golden Couple and Sunreach, and I think that I'm going to at least start You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry before the end of the month. So yeah, not a successful TBR, but we're just gonna forget about it and pretend that it never happened. So what are my plans for June? I am of course participating in Whateverthon, which is a month-long readathon created by Maddie from Book Browsing Blog. I am one of the co-hosts, one of the teams. I am a shelf slayer. If you guys would like to get involved in this readathon, I will put the link to the announcement video down below. You select a team, each team has a bingo board, and you gain points for every book you read, and if you complete bingos you gain bonus points and that kind of stuff. I am only going to be posting this summer Bookopoly TBR this month, so I'm not going to be posting a separate June TBR, but as there is a bingo board for this readathon, I find those quite easy to complete, because as I'm reading things I can just check them off, and then when we get to the last few, start selecting specific books to fulfill specific prompts. But I just thought I would let you guys know that I am definitely participating in this readathon, and I think that is the only one for June. In terms of life, I'm going to be busy just for the first week of June, and then I plan on taking the rest of the month easy, because I'm not a social butterfly at all. I'm very much a homebody, and while the last couple of months for me haven't been what a lot of people would consider busy, for somebody like me who spends so much time alone, who's a little bit of a solitary creature, it has been a little bit much. And then on top of the bad mental health stuff as well, I just want to take the time to recharge without social obligations like looming on the horizon. I'm also starting therapy in June, which this has turned into like a big update that nobody asked for, so we're just gonna move on really swiftly. But essentially I'm just looking forward to mentally getting myself back on track. Just before we get into the Bookopoly prompts, I'm going to do my Inner Circle Patreon pick, just in case I can get this book into any of the prompts and it saves me adding an extra book onto my TBR. So all of my Inner Circle tier patrons can recommend a book to go in here. I pick out one every single month and I have to read it. So we're getting a bit low, but this is the month that we're going to refill, so we're going to be overflowing again. But let's see what June's pick is going to be. Go with this one. And oh, that's a lot of words. Slave to Sensation by Nalini Singh, and this one's Melanie's pick. Oh my god, I'm actually really excited about that. Is this one that I'm gonna have to go? I don't think I have this one. I've got the Guild Hunter ones, which I don't think is this one, so I'm gonna look it up. Oh my god, this one is the first in the Side Changeling series, which is a series I've heard really good things about. But the Nalini Singh series that I own is the Guild Hunter series, which starts with Angel's Blood, which I've heard great things about in terms of people personally recommending it to me, but in terms of me looking on books booktube and other places and see it in series recommended, I've mainly heard about the Sci Changeling series. I'm just gonna read the synopsis to you guys. It's a paranormal romance or like an urban fantasy, but it says, dive into a world torn apart by a powerful race with phenomenal powers of the mind and none of the heart. In a world that denies emotions, where the ruling side punish any sign of desire, Sasha Duncan must conceal the feelings that brand her as flawed. To reveal them would be to sentence herself to the horror of rehabilitation, the complete psychic erasure of everything that she ever was. Both human and animal, Lucas Hunter is a changeling hungry for the very sensations the Sci disdain. After centuries of uneasy coexistence, these two races are now on the verge of war over the brutal murders of several changeling women. Lucas is determined to find the Sci killer who butchered his packmate, and Sasha is his ticket into their closely guarded society. But he soon discovers that this ice-cold Sci is very capable of passion, and that the animal in him is fascinated by her. Caught between their conflicting worlds, Lucas and Sasha must remain bound to their identities or sacrifice everything for a taste of darkest temptation. Sounds good, and I am really excited to be trying something by Nalini Singh, because I've heard great things, and something that I've also discovered recently is that Nalini Singh is one of Sarah J Maas's favourite authors, which I think is pretty evident when you look at the synopsis of Angel's Blood and also House of Earth and Blood. And now, without further ado, let us get into our first roll of June and July. Okay, so last time we ended on romance. First roll. 6. Oh, not again. Scroll through Goodreads. So we're getting the chaos started real early on here, because roll number 1 is scroll through Goodreads, which doesn't often come up, but it also came up the last time we made a Bookopoly TBR. I'm going to go to my Goodreads update feed, and we are going to scroll until we find a book that I own and I have not read, and that is going to be going onto my TBR. Let's start scrolling. Lots of romance here, but not romance that I own. Oh, I've already read House in the Cerulean Sea. I don't have Queen of Nothing. Oh, I've just realized Book of Night's really popular at the minute because it's just been released, and I really don't want that to come up because I do actually own 3 copies of it now, actually. These are all very obscure books that I haven't heard of. I have already read Verity by Colleen Hoover. Don't own Malibu Rising. I'm intrigued by that cover. I've never heard of it before. Lots of romance. The romance girlies have found me, it seems. Oh my god, is this what we're going for? This is amazing. I'm just gonna go get this. So the first book going on to my Bookopoly TBR is The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, which is the first book in the Bridgerton series, and I'm actually really not mad about it. So I really like the Bridgerton TV show. I've never read historical romance. I have read a YA one, which was The Lux by Anna Godberson, but I've never read like adult Regency romance or anything like that, because typically I don't like historical books. But I do believe that a lot of historical romances have mutual pining, which is one of my favourite tropes, so I'm willing to give it a go. I've heard that these aren't the best historical romance books, but I think because I'm familiar with the show, it will do me good to dip my toes in with something that I'm a little bit more familiar with. Also, good timing, because Illumicrate just announced that gorgeous hardback set of these that they're doing, which I'm not sure, even if I do enjoy this book, whether I would invest that much money in a hardback set, because I don't really value romance in hardback usually. But if I really love this, like if I give it 5 stars, it's something that I may consider. So the plot of this series is that we're following each of the Bridgerton siblings as they find love. The first one, The Duke and I, has a fake dating trope where the Duke doesn't want to get married, but he's being pressured by his family, and Daphne Bridgerton wants to acquire more eligible suitors, so they start fake dating to make other guys jealous, and people of a higher standing have interest in Daphne, and so the Duke can get his family off his back. I do know that this book in particular is problematic. I'm not sure about the rest of the series as a whole, but there is an instance of lack of consent in here, which I am already aware of going into it, and it was also present in the show. But yeah, I'm excited to give historical romance a try. And this one was also a recent birthday gift from Noemi, so thank you very much to Noemi for sending this my way. Roll number 2. 8. Most recent purchase. Isn't this just turning out exactly the same as it did last month? So for roll number 2, we landed on another prompt that we had in our last Bookopoly TBR, which was most recent purchase, which is actually a prompt that I usually enjoy, but I haven't actually been purchasing much recently. So I'm not looking quite as fresh as I did earlier when I was originally filming this video, but you are going to see in the stack at the end of this video of all my Bookopoly books, you are going to see Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May, which I put in for the prompt most recent purchase. I don't know how my brain did this, but in my spreadsheet when I do something like a birthday unboxing, I highlight all of the books in a different colour just so I know not to include them in my normal haul, because I've already hauled them in a dedicated like birthday, Christmas unboxing, whatever it is. And I've just done my birthday book haul in the beginning of May, so my eyes just automatically skimmed over everything that was highlighted and went to the thing above it, which was Wild and Wicked Things. But it's not actually my most recent purchase, because since I posted my regular unboxing, I did my birthday unboxing, and the last book that I opened in that video was from the wonderful Lamia, and it is actually Blood Trials by N.E. Davenport, which I am so excited that this was the last book. The last book in the actual video was The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik, but that's a book that I've already read an arc of and I just needed a finished copy. So this is the last one I acquired that I haven't read. I am so excited about this because so many people have told me specifically, like gone out of their way to come to me and tell me that I'm going to love this. It is a debut. I think it's an adult fantasy, not sci-fi, but it does have like planets and stuff in the background. It's been compared to Red Rising, which is why I think people are recommending it to me. Ro from Wandering Through Worlds said it is, I think, did she say it was the best adult fantasy she's ever read and she hadn't even finished? Aaron from Booked and Busy told me to read it, even though I don't think Aaron has. But yeah, I'm real excited about this. I'm hyped and I'm so glad that it's come up for this prompt, because otherwise, while I really wanted to read it, I just really did not know when I was going to manage to squeeze it in. And of course, ignore any mentions of or references to Wild and Wicked Things throughout the rest of this video. Roll number 3. It is a double and it is 12. Viewer recommends. This is literally the same as last time. Roll number 3 was a double, and it was also a prompt, an obscure prompt that we had the last time we did a Bookopoly TBR. This one is viewer recommendations. So I have a video I make every year called My Entire Own TBR, and I ask you guys to comment on that and recommend all of the books that you see on my shelves that you would like me to read. And you can do it in individual comments, or you can just like put a list in one comment and post that. Then when we land on this space, I pull up a random comment generator, and whatever book is in the comment I have to read. And then if you put like a whole list, I get to choose. There are 1,329 in total, so I'm going to turn the brightness up on my screen so that you guys can see. I am sorry for any strobing, but let's see. Okay, so our comment is from Danielle, and the book is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which, you know, I'm not too mad about. So Dark Matter by Blake Crouch is a book that I picked up secondhand towards the end of last year, and every time I see this book I think of G from Book Roast, because I know that she absolutely adores Blake Crouch. So I'm really excited to finally be reading a book by him. But this, I think, is about a guy who's kidnapped and he wakes up in an alternate reality. So he's married, but the person he's married to is not his wife. He doesn't have the child that he had before he was kidnapped, and instead of whatever his other job was, he's now like a celebrated kind of, not quite a celebrity, I don't think. He's a celebrated genius instead of an ordinary professor. I think, I don't know, but I think that Blake Crouch writes kind of psychological thrillers, but also sci-fi, psychological sci-fi, a sci-fi thriller, something like that. But I just think that this is going to be not complex, but really in the details and the nitty-gritty of the story, which is something that I can definitely get behind. So thank you very much, Danielle, for recommending this one. I'm very much not mad about it. Roll number 4. 8. 5, 6, 7, 8 science fiction. So for roll number 4, I think we're up to, we landed on sci-fi, which again is what we landed on after viewer recommends the last time we did a Bookopoly TBR. And for this one, I am just going to put Aurora's End back on my TBR because I do really want to read this. The first 2 books I read shortly after their release, and I've just not picked this one up. But when I do, I'll have finished the trilogy. And we have, I'm not sure if this is the start of a series, but with Slave to Sensation and The Duke and I'm already starting 2 series, so I kind of would like to end one as well, especially because those mid-year stats are coming up, so I'm gonna have to talk about all of the series that I've read so far this year. But this one is a young adult space opera that's multi-perspective, following Squad 312. The leader of Squad 312 is Tyler, who was supposed to graduate from Flight Academy at the top of his class. However, when he's doing some last minute training, he stumbles across the wreckage of a 100 or 200-year-old ship that was traveling from Earth to a space colony, and he finds a girl on there called Aurora who is by some miracle alive. So when he actually makes it to his graduation ceremony, instead of having the pick of his graduating class to form his crew, he ends up with the misfits and all of the people that were left behind, and they form Squad 312 along with Aurora. This is really campy, really fun, really fast-paced. I do really enjoy this series, but because it's so fast-paced, it is one that I forget about quite easily. So one of the reasons why I do want to squeeze this one in as well is because the details of book 2 are starting to fade, and based on how book 2 ends, I think this is going to take a very different turn, so I need to read it while I still remember some of the details about the end of book 2. Roll number 5. 8. Other. So for roll number 5, we landed on Other, and this is the one that I decided to ask my patrons to vote on for the month. So I gave them 4 options that were all book of the month books across different genres, because I do tend to hang on to quite a lot of the book of the month books that are in genres that I wouldn't typically read if they sound interesting to me, but because they're outside of the genres that I normally read, I rarely pick them up. So I'm really excited to see what my patrons have picked. I put up the poll quite last minute because, like I said, not having a great month, everything's like falling by the wayside accidentally. So I'm really excited to see what they picked, but their options were Vladimir by Julia May Jonas. This one I think is literary fiction. We have The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas, and this one is, it says that it is Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca, but it's also a paranormal suspense. We have Tell Me Everything by Erica Krause. This one is true crime about a sexual assault investigation. And we have a thriller, which is Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. So I'm going to have a look at the poll. I'm not sure because of how last minute this was. I only put this up 2 hours ago. I may not give you guys a final answer today. I may wait until at least the end of the day before I decide which one we're going to read, because I feel like I haven't given them a great deal of time. Okay, so there are 86 votes in total, and Reckless Girls is currently in the lead, but only by 1 vote. So there's 28 votes for that right now, and there's 27 for The Hacienda. So instead of calling this now, because it is so close, I'm gonna give people a little bit more time to vote, and then I guess we'll find out in my vlogs which one it is that I ended up picking up, but it will definitely be one of these 4. And what will hopefully be our final roll, roll number 6, is a 6, which is a fantasy. And then for our final roll, roll number 5, we landed on fantasy. Finally, a normal kind of roll for me. And for this one, I'm going with Jade City by Fonda Lee, because if you guys have been following my most recent TBRs, I have been supposed to be reading this series for at least 2 months now, but like I just said with the poll, everything has kind of been accidentally slipping by the wayside. I've read pretty much nothing in May, so I wasn't going to be reading this, but I am determined that I'm going to be reading this very soon. As soon as my social obligations are over for the beginning of June, we are doing this series. So this is an adult fantasy series. It's urban fantasy, it's set on an island, and it surrounds a substance called Jade, which is a powerful drug-like substance that enhances magic, and I think we're following 2 clans who are fighting over the control of the Jade. I think I'm gonna love this series. I'd love to have some 5-star reads right about now, but I also know it's going to emotionally destroy me. So is there really, like, is it a good idea to pick it up right now? Probably not, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So this is my Bookopoly TBR. Look how manageable this is. I'll stick Reckless Girls on top for now, even though that might not be the one that we end up going with. I am really excited to read this though, and I love me a thriller from time to time, so if that was the one that won, I definitely wouldn't be mad about it. I haven't added up the pages for this, but I know that Aurora's End is about 550 pages, Jade City somewhere around the same, but the rest of these really manageable in size. So as I said a little bit earlier, I'm not going to be posting a separate June TBR. This is all I'm going to be posting this month, because I am playing catch up on quite a lot of things, and I just kind of want to get back on track, I guess, instead of putting too much pressure on myself to read certain books within the next month. But I do have 1 book to add, and that is Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard, the Fairy Loot edition for the sequel to this will be going on sale very soon, so I would like to read it and see if I like it before I order that. This one's the Waterstones one. I ended up with the Waterstones and the Fairy Loot. Unless I adore this book, I will be unhauling one of them, and it's likely to be Waterstones over Fairy Loot. But this one is Victoria Aveyard's multi-perspective YA fantasy, I think. I don't think it's adult, but I love the Red Queen series. It's been a long time since I read it, so I don't know if I'd love it the same if I read it now, but I adored it and it's one of my favorite series, so I do really think I'm going to enjoy this. And Aaron from Booked and Busy is essentially holding me accountable to reading this. In something like January or February, she asked if we could buddy read it, and I was like, I'm sorry, Aaron, I'm fully booked. I'm booked and busy. And she said, okay, we'll read it in June. I completely forgot about it. Aaron did not. Aaron is still holding me accountable to reading this book, so we will be buddy reading this together at some point in the month. But I'm actually excited because I intended to read this shortly after its release and then I just didn't. So that is my immediate TBR for the next couple of months. I will, I think, be doing a separate, what is it called, July TBR with everything that I planned to read in July. It'll be like the remnants of this TBR and anything else that I kind of have in the works. But yeah, that's what I have for you guys right now. So do let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you guys thought of them. Also let me know if you have a preference for which one of these my patrons end up picking. If you've read any of them, that would be great, because book of the month, I don't look into them too much. Also, third question, if you're participating in Whateverthon, please let me know what team you guys are on. But aside from that, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. If you head to my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.